Ladies and gentlemen, you are now listening to That's 3 Ref, a wrestling podcast.
Partners, how's it going? This is Jesse Whitedeer, your friendly neighborhood cosplaying goof. And today we are talking Survivor Series 1994, all the way from the Freedom Coliseum in San Antonio, Texas. I am joined by the Bagman, your friend and mine, Cody Bags. Unfortunately, we have no Oklahoma or no Fragmented Luchador, or Ian Cooper and Chris Lawson, respectively. So maybe next week. But here we are, the Bagman and I, part 2, or again. Cody, does all that sound good?
All of that sounds good.
Cool. All right. Well, Cody, how are you doing over there?
I'm doing all right. I can't complain too much. Busy day. But I'm here.
Well, there you go. I mean, as copious amounts of old people would say at my work, even if you did complain, who would listen?
Very good point. I get that quite a bit.
So I don't know if that's supposed to be supportive or what's going on with that, but that's just a thing that they say. So here we are. I don't know. But anyways, never mind all that though. Like I said at the top of the show, we are covering Survivor Series 1994. On this episode, we got The Undertaker and Yokozuna in a casket match rematch. And then we got Bob Backlund versus Bret the Hitman Hart for the WWF Heavyweight Championship. And of course, we got numerous team elimination matches, which is the parlance of the times for Survivor Series. So some really cool stuff there. So commenters of the podcast would comment and say that I tend to say exciting stuff and yeah a lot. So I'll try to refrain from that a little bit. Or it could be a good drinking game for some of you out there. So yeah, I don't know. There you go. There was a yeah. Take a shot, or maybe not. I don't know. Drink responsibly. Do what you want, you know? Anyways, so we are, like I said, checking out Survivor Series 1994. We didn't get any listener mail this week, but if you feel so inclined, you can check us out on Facebook and Instagram. Both of those are That's 3 Raf on Facebook and Instagram. Or you can email us at that's3raf@gmail.com. Yeah, check us out. If you got a question for the week's topic or just a question in general, please send those over. We will read them. So thank you for that in advance. Cody, we're doing a news segment this week, or we're going to start a news segment where we do Pet of the Week. So of those of you listening, if you feel obliged to, send in a picture of your pet with the hashtag Pet of the Week, maybe the pet's name, and we will announce those in the coming weeks. This week, though, this Pet of the Week, though, is, hold for applause, drum roll, please. It is your friend and mine, FLEA, who has been my cat of 4 years. So congratulations, FLEA. You're the European champion of this podcast.
Wow, 4 years.
Okay.
I'm flying.
4 years, yeah. Yeah, I managed to keep her alive for 4 years, hopefully another 4 years. But, you know,
pretty decent title reign.
There you go. She's like the Bruno Sammartino of European champions. Or I guess more of the what is the somebody?
Pedro Morales.
I can't think. Pedro Morales. There you go. So I knew there was like a guy at the top of my tongue. But yeah, she is the Pedro Morales of this podcast with the European title. So if she makes it 8 years, maybe she's a world champion. But anyways, we wasted enough time.
Fantastic.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Cody.
Oh, I was just saying fantastic.
Oh, okay. Yeah, fantastic indeed. So, but Survivor Series 1994 took place on Thanksgiving Eve on November 23rd, 1994 at the Freedom Coliseum in San Antonio, Texas. So, like the great Charlie Pride, is anyone going to San Antonio? Well, the WWF did in 1994. Since its Survivor Series always takes place on the traditional Thanksgiving Eve or day, the following Survivor Series and all subsequent shows have taken place on the Sunday before Thanksgiving. The 2005 and 2000 events were exceptions as they were held the Sunday after Thanksgiving weekend. Attendance was 10,000, buy rate not accurable, so we can only speculate that it was in the billions, and that's how Vince McMahon got very rich. Or it was a sum total of $500. So I don't know. Feel free to speculate wildly about that. But some cool intro here. We got, like I said at the top of the show, Survivor Series is an elimination team match. So we got all of the teams from this episode meeting, and they're discussing their game plans, talking about this and that, kind of like those team meetings that you have at work that you don't really dig, but you're just there for the paycheck. So one could only assume, especially in the $1 million corporation's case, they're there for the paycheck. We got a pretty cool cartoon intro or an animated intro. So very early 90s there. And then we're greeted by Cowboy Vince McMahon and Cowboy Gorilla Monsoon. Cody, it's kind of a travesty with all of the history, the beautiful decorated history that Gorilla Monsoon has as a wrestler, as a commentator, and they stick him in a bolo tie and a shirt that you would buy at a Western store. So kind of weird there. I don't know. Vince McMahon looks like either Big Tex or he looks like a waiter at a like Outback Steakhouse or something.
Like, I swear the clothes look more like something you would buy at a costume store rather than an actual Western store.
Yeah, right. It's kind of like for people who think that's what cowboys dress like, that's kind of what they're dressed like. It's kind of like if you ever see that episode of King of the Hill where the guy from Boston shows up and he wants to get like a real Texas, experience, and he goes to that Western store and buys all those ridiculous clothes. It's kind of like that. It's kind of how they're dressed. Like that episode of the King of the Hill that only few would remember, but they should. So yeah, I don't know.
Proven good.
Yeah, there you go. So, but the dark match of this card, and of course, dark match is the match that happens for the live crowd, but isn't featured on the pay-per-view. The dark match was between Bob Holly, and he defeated Quang with Harvey Wippleman at his side. I tried to look up the particulars about this match. No information was given, so we don't know how Bob Holly won, how long it went, what he was wearing, what he ate for lunch that day. We have no idea. We can only speculate. Of course, Quang is the great and powerful Savio Vega. We seen what was that on that Puerto Rican card recently? We seen Savio Vega make a comeback.
That's
you
right.
remember? You know what I'm talking?
Backlash.
Backlash.
Yep.
There you go. So kind of came full circle here. We seen Savio Vega. So and Carlito's back. So maybe he'll show up as Quang too. I don't know. But anyways, who did show up, Cody? was the bad guys. The beginning match, or match one, the bad guys, which consisted of the 1-2-3 Kid, the British Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith, Fatu, aka Rikishi, Razor Ramon, and Sion, aka the Barbarian. Cody, that Sion was actually Tongan, and he's not Samoan.
Making him the only member of that team that wasn't Samoan.
There you go. And I think that the great and powerful Haku, or Tonga, King Tonga, is actually Tongan as well. So that's another addition there. But they are joined by Afa and Lua Bano, and they defeat the Teamsters, which consisted of Diesel, Jeff Jarrett, Jim Neidhart, Owen Hart, and Shawn Michaels. They go 21 minutes rather, and 45 seconds. Several storylines formed the background for the opening match, which saw the fan favorite team of the bad guys square off against the heel team of the Teamsters. Razor Ramon had been feuding with Shawn Michaels since September 1993, when Ramon won the WWF Intercontinental Championship. Michaels, the former champion, had been stripped of the belt. WWF president at the time, Jack Tunney, scheduled a battle royale in which Ramon and Rick Martel were the final participants remaining. They faced each other on Monday Night Raw, and Ramon won the match and was awarded the title. Michaels claimed that he was the rightful holder of the belt and refused to acknowledge Ramon as the champion. Diesel was serving as Michaels' bodyguard at the time, but soon became an active wrestler and carried on Michaels' feud with Ramon. So heck of a guy there. In the months leading up to Survivor Series, Ramon had also developed a feud with Jeff Jarrett. The two faced each other several times with the Intercontinental Championship on the line. Ramon's friend, the 1-2-3 Kid, took Ramon's side in these feuds, and the two formed an occasional tag team. The Head Shrinkers had also been feuding with Michaels and Diesel since dropping the WWF championships to them on August 28th of 94. The Head Shrinkers had several rematches, but were unable to regain the belts. Finally, Davey Boy Smith was involved in a feud with his real-life brother-in-law, Owen Hart, and Hart's other brother-in-law, Jim Neidhart. Owen Hart had turned on his brother at 1994 Royal Rumble, and check out our review of that pay-per-view in the previous episodes. But after which, Smith got involved on Bret's side, and Neidhart took Owen's side. So this match, the opening minutes of this match featured brothers-in-law Hart and Smith trading moves, as well as Jeff Jarrett and Razor Ramon brawling. Fatu, aka Rikishi, became the first wrestler eliminated after Diesel performed a jackknife powerbomb on him. Diesel would then eliminate the 1-2-3 Kid 42 seconds later after another jackknife powerbomb. Sion followed 31 seconds later after being pinned by Diesel after, you guessed it, a jackknife powerbomb. Davey Boy Smith entered the ring, but Diesel knocked him in between the ropes into the arena floor. Eliminated after the referee counted him out. Razor Ramon was the only member left to face the team of the 5 members of the Teamsters. He fought with Diesel for several minutes, but then Diesel performed the jackknife powerbomb on him and prepared to pin him for the victory. Michaels insisted on having Diesel hold Ramon while Michaels performed a super kick on him. Ramon dodged the kick, and Shawn Michaels accidentally kicked Diesel in the face. Diesel became angry, particularly because this was the same mistake that had cost Diesel the IC title at SummerSlam. And please check out a review of that pay-per-view in the previous episode. He and Michaels argued outside the ring while the rest of the team attempted to calm them down. The referee counted all 5 wrestlers out because they were outside the ring after the ref's 10 count, which would declare Razor Ramon the winner of this match. Shawn Michaels was showed backstage after the match. He stated that he was disbanding his tag team with Diesel and vacating the tag team championships. He then got in a car and drove away. So Cody, turning the attention over to you, what were some of your thoughts on this match and kind of the lead up to this Survivor Series and this match?
Okay. So, one thing I really liked about this match is that they were able to continue ongoing feuds that they'd been building up in previous episodes of the shows and pay-per-views, while revisiting former feuds. For example, Razor Ramon versus Shawn Michaels from WrestleMania. And they were able to begin new feuds like Shawn Michaels and Diesel. So I thought this match did a really good job of bringing in past feuds, present feuds, and setting up new ones. I really enjoyed that. There was a lot of thought put into it, and it was put together really well. I also like the fact that everyone in this match had a chance to shine to some degree. Some more than others, obviously. A few of these guys, let's face it, they were great, but they weren't getting the same push as others. Like Sion and Fatu, they weren't getting the Diesel push. But for what they were there for, they were given the time to do what they needed to do, and they looked great doing it. So I thought this whole match in general was just put together really well. To me, it was one of the strongest matches on the card, so I was impressed with it. Kept me interested, kept me engaged the whole time. The psychology of the feuds, along with the actual work of the guys in the ring. Few notes that I made. The crowd was really into it as well. They were into everything that Diesel was doing. They were into everything that the British Bulldog was doing. Let's see, they really hate Jeff Jarrett. Had to comment on that. Really hate Jeff Jarrett. My only complaints were with the finish of the match, and it was nothing big, but I'm getting a little tired at this point in our watch-alongs. I'm getting a little tired of the Shawn Michaels goes to super kick Razor, misses, and hits Diesel. So that one I telegraphed a while before we got there. I thought the ending could have been just a little bit better. That being said, it wasn't bad. It was not the worst ending I've ever seen to a Survivor Series tag team match. We'll get to that in a few minutes. So overall, I was very satisfied with it. Strong start to the night, obviously excluding the dark match, but a strong start to the pay-per-view. The crowd was into it. The crowd was hyped. All the angles going in, all the feuds going in, everyone benefited from it in some way. So overall, I was pretty happy. I enjoyed it. Very few things I can complain about.
Yeah, I very astute from you as always. I do agree that the ending in this match was kind of weird. I mean, I didn't really the count out victory. Okay, I mean, I guess because you like you said, Fatu and Simone didn't really, they got to do some stuff, but not really shine. I guess it's more of Diesel and Davey Boy Smith and surprisingly 1-2-3 Kid. He got in some kicks and stuff as well. But yeah, so you've seen that also on the heel side with Diesel, Jeff Jarrett, who we both noted in a previous episode how much we love Jeff Jarrett, but of course everyone hates him on this pay-per-view. And then you have Neidhart, Owen Hart, and Shawn Michaels, kind of doing their part of drawing the ire of the crowd, and getting everyone upset. So I overall, like you had noted, I think that everyone got to do their stuff. I mean, nice power moves from Davey Boy, and it's kind of a shame that we we lost him so young, and we're not young, but we lost him, earlier than anyone should be. And then also not to mention the kind of awful treatment that he had during the Attitude Era. So it's very refreshing though to see this era of Davey Boy and see how just how talented he was. So he really stood out in this match, and of course you got Razor as well. But yeah, really really fun stuff from everybody. I mean, I will agree with you. Other than the finish, not a bad match. Really kind of a banger to kick everything off. But um, you got anything else before we transition?
I thought this match did a really good job of keeping everyone strong. No one came out of this match looking bad. They all, when I said earlier that they all served their purpose, they did. And when it was time for them to be done, there was a way to get everyone out of it without making anyone look less than or too weak. And I really appreciated that. Obviously, Diesel dominated the majority of the match. But if you go back and watch his eliminations of everyone, like the 1-2-3 kid, it's not something simple. It's not something, well, I mean, it is simple, but it's not something minor. What he does to the 1-2-3 kid to eliminate him, it's believable. If I remember right, he does the jackknife twice.
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, so I really like that. They found a way to eliminate these guys without making any of them look weak. Everyone stayed strong. Diesel powered through the whole match. Razor went up against the whole opposite team. Davey Boy never gets pinned. He gets counted out. A lot of other guys get counted out. So they found a way to not bury anyone in this match, and I really appreciated that. So that was another thing I noticed that I wanted to comment on. Really good job of keeping everyone strong.
Shortly after Survivor Series, Diesel was named the top contender to Backlund's title. Backlund's first defense was at Madison Square Garden at a live show 3 days after Survivor Series, where Diesel defeated him with the jackknife powerbomb in 8 seconds. With the victory, Diesel joined Hart and Pedro Morales, who we mentioned earlier, as the only wrestlers to the at that point to be a Triple Crown champion, and became the quickest to do so, having won all his titles within the span of 7 months. This record was, of course, broken by CM Punk in 2009. The vacancy of the tag titles, an 8-team tournament was announced, with the finals announced at Royal Rumble. The 1-2-3 Kid and Bob Holly won the tournament by defeating Tatanka and Bam Bam Bigelow, and won the titles, but of course dropped them the following night to the Smoking Guns. Michaels and Diesel's feud resumed at Royal Rumble 1995, when Michaels attacked Diesel during his match with Hart. Michaels then became the top contender for the WWF Heavyweight title by winning the 1995 Royal Rumble match. Diesel won their match at WrestleMania after Sid, Michaels' new bodyguard, accidentally distracted the referee. Diesel offered Michaels a rematch, and Michaels told Sid that his services would not be required during the rematch. Sid, of course, attacked Michaels. What a guy. And Diesel came to Michaels' aid. Again, good friend on Diesel's part. This attack caused Michaels to turn face or become a good guy. And he and Diesel resumed their friendship and won the WWF Championship later in 1995. So one could only speculate that they hashed out their differences over some soda and pizza. So probably Domino's pizza from the previous episode. So cool stuff there. You love to see it there, Cody. Old wounds being healed by the power of friendship.
Absolutely. And some Domino's pizza.
And some Domino's pizza. There you go. So, so transitioning to this second match, we have the probably, in my opinion, was the worst match. Was the worst match. I think of this since we started this podcast, of the rewatches, and the worst match definitely on this card. But we have the Royal Family, which consisted of Jerry Lawler, Cheesy, Queasy, and Sleazy, and they defeated Clowns Are Us, Doink the Clown, Dink the Clown, Pink the Clown, and Wink the Clown. They go 16 minutes and 5 seconds. Although Jerry Lawler and Doink the Clown, who was Steve Lombardi at the time, or the Brooklyn Brawler, had a storyline rivalry that dated back to when Doink turned on Lawler by dumping a bucket of water on him after SummerSlam 1993. On September 10th, 1994, episode of WWF Superstars, Lawler provoked Doink by popping balloons carried by Doink's, and I say this word with cringe, sidekick, but his friend, his buddy, his friend Dink, his little person friend.
His Christmas present from Santa Claus.
Well, I don't know about that, but his friend Dink, after Doink and Dink retaliated, Lawler introduced his own friend named Queasy. In the following weeks, Doink added 2 more friends, Wink and Pink, while Lawler introduced Sleazy and Cheesy. This led to, unfortunately, the elimination match at Survivor Series. So the rules of this match were only the little people could fight the other little people, and that neither Lawler nor Doink were allowed to attack the little people. The match consisted of comedic action for much of the first 10 minutes. Eventually, Doink attempted a crossbody, but Lawler reversed the move, and Lawler was able to get the pin and eliminate him from the match. Lawler remained involved in the match and played a role in an elimination of 2 more members of Doink's team. When Wink attempted a monkey flip against Queasy, Lawler blocked the move and helped Queasy pin Wink. Later in the match, Lawler threw Cheesy on top of Pink, which enabled Cheesy to eliminate another one of Doink's teammates. After Wink and Pink were eliminated, they hid under the ring rather than returning backstage. The final member of Clowns Are Us was eliminated after Sleazy and Dink fought in the ring. Dink performed a crossbody on Sleazy and attempted to pin him. Queasy rolled on the wrestler. Queasy rolled the wrestlers over so that Sleazy was on top. And the referee made the 3 count, which awarded the match to the royal family. Lawler criticized them for taking credit for the victory. Dink, Pink, and Wink emerged from under the ring. All 6 little people turned against Lawler and chased him away from the ring. As Lawler tried to escape, Doink returned and hit him in the face with a pie. And I think to this day, Sleazy, Queasy, and Cheesy, Dink, Wink, and Pink are threatening to make a comeback. So hopefully they don't make good on that promise. But this match was just was not good. I don't know who this is for. I feel like Jerry Lawler and Doink could have just had because their action when they were in the ring together, it was good. You could tell that both guys knew how to work against the other, and I feel like that would have transitioned to a better match than this was. And I just not really much to say about this other than it's back in 1994 and even to present day, people are unfortunately victimizing and taking advantage of little people into the entertainment industry, but of course also in wrestling. Not too long ago, we had the WWE Juniors, which was showcasing little people wrestling, and didn't really put them in the best light.
This was no WeLC. I think we can all agree with that. If you haven't watched that, you should look it up, everybody out there. Second, I think we have spent more than enough time on this match, so I will just quickly go through some notes that I made. First, I had to comment. All of this started because Lawler popped Dink's balloon. That was I wrote that down, question mark at the end of it. I had to sit through this match because of a popped balloon, so there's that. A few other comments that I made in my notes. Is it not wild that this is one of King's most memorable feuds in the WWF?
Comment on what you were saying is, especially with all of the prestige that Jerry Lawler had, with Mid South and with the NWA. I think he was also in the AWA. So just all of the history that he had. The stuff Kaufman. And the Terry Funk. I'm so sorry. With him and Terry Funk. So it's just kind of, you have all of that, and then he gets into the WWF and he does stuff like this, and then years later, you would have him screaming about puppies and all other type of ill repute in the Attitude Era. So it's just kind of, I don't know, just a goddamn shame, really.
One quick correction on Lawler. He was the most prominent in the Tennessee territories, so Continental. That was his big claim to fame. Was his time there?
That's right.
But
yeah, forgive me there.
Your point is very well proven, and that actually goes to the next note that I made. I literally wrote the words, Jerry Lawler was a megastar. So for anyone out there, I'm not going to get onto this tangent. We are actually going to save that probably for a later episode. But pre-WWF, Lawler was the megastar of the Tennessee territory, which was a very prolific territory in its own right, in its own time. And there were very few wrestling stars who could stay the top name in a territory as long as Jerry Lawler did. And we bring him through the WWF, and I do understand that he was getting older. He couldn't do what he used to do. He couldn't do the stuff that he had done with Terry Funk, at least not as often. But you can't tell me that there wasn't something better that could be done with him than this. So, watching this match, there's a little bit of eye rolling, quite a bit of frustration. Obviously, for the exploitation that was happening in this match, on top of whatever they had done to Lawler and these other guys. So,
yeah. Oh, good. Sorry.
I don't know. Just that was about it. Those were my notes. Along with every so often, I would make the comment of "This is still going on?" ? I wrote that down several times. So when we finally got to the end of it, just a lot of cringing, but they were able to win me back with the rest of the pay-per-view. I'll give them that. Didn't ruin the night for me, but definitely not one of the better matches I've ever watched.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, at the top is definitely one of the worst matches in this rewatch series, and for sure on the card. But yeah, I just hope that all the little people performers in this match got paid well, at least. So I don't know. There you go. But so just some follow up here. In late 1994 and early 1995, Lawler wrestled briefly in Smoky Mountain Wrestling, while still continuing to communicate or commentate sporadically for the WWF. During his absence, Shawn Michaels filled in for him as color commentator on Monday Night Raw. He would defeat Tony Anthony for the promotion's top title. That would be Smoky Mountain in January 1995. Lawler was the last Smoky Mountain heavyweight champion, where he defeated Brad Armstrong on Boxing Day 1995. The promotion closed its doors on December 30th. eventually Doink would become a jobber, or a guy who gets paid to lose a lot and make other people look good by losing. Regularly losing to wrestlers like Jeff Jarrett, Hakushi, and Waylon Mercy. So, the character Doink didn't really. I mean, he would show up later on in later incarnations of the WWE, WWF, but really didn't do much. Immediately after, and of course, Jerry Lawler would become a full-time commentator in the Attitude Era of WWF and then WWE, alongside the great JR, Jim Ross. So, some great memories there with JR and Jerry Lawler. But what was probably a good memory for Bull Nakano was Todd Pettingill. So we cut to an interview where Todd Pettingill is interviewing Bull Nakano, and they show a replay of Bull Nakano and Alundra Blaze's rematch in Japan, where Bull Nakano won the WWF Women's title. And so we don't actually see the match; we just kind of see a highlight of what happened. And Todd Pettingill is dressed. He's dressed like one of the kids I would assume would be in the crowd of Howdy Doody, because he's wearing like a duster, and then he's wearing like some other Western attire, and he's wearing a hat that looks too big for his head. So he essentially just looks like a child's version of like a Western outlaw. And then he's interviewing Bull Nakano, who speaks Japanese entirely in this episode, and then Todd Pettingill just pretends to understand her, and yeah, I mean, not much there, but shout outs to Bull Nakano, and of course we covered Bull Nakano and Alundra Blaze in their WWF Women's Title match, the first one in the previous episode. So please check that out if you feel so inclined.
Seeing this, I realized I've never actually watched that match. So I made a note to track it down at one point, because I am a fan of Alundra Blaze, or Medusa, whatever you want to call her. And I am a fan of Bull Nakano, but I haven't watched much of her content. So I did make a note that I want to track that match down and give it a watch. But that's about it. Then we moved on to the next match.
So like the Wolfman on a full moon, we're going to do a full transition over to the match 3 of the night. We got Bob Backlund with Owen Hart, and he defeats our guy Bret Hart, who's accompanied by the British Bulldog, or Davey Boy Smith, when Helen Hart threw in Bret's towel at 35 minutes and 11 seconds. Of course, the stipulations for this match are the opponent's corner, or so Davey Boy Smith would throw in the towel for Bret, and Owen Hart would throw in the towel for Bob Backlund. This was a submission only match, so even if the wrestler tapped out, the match wouldn't come to an end unless the cornerman threw in the towel. But we got Bret Hart. His feud with Bob Backlund dated back to July 30th of 1994 on an episode of Superstars of Wrestling. Backlund believed that he had won the match in the WWF Heavyweight Championship by defeating Hart. This match had not ended, however, and Hart pinned Backlund. When Hart tried to shake Backlund's hand after the match, Backlund slapped him in the face and locked him in a crossface chicken wing. After Backlund began acting in a completely different manner than he had before, demanding respect from his fellow wrestlers, insisting that they call him Mr. Buckland, or Mr. Backlund, I'm sorry, and using the crossface chicken wing, a hold he said was unbreakable, on them if they did not adhere to his wishes. He claimed that he had never truly been beating for the WWF World Heavyweight Championship on December 26, 1983, as the match had ended when his manager, Arnold Scotland, threw the towel into the ring rather than allowing Buckland to submit. to the Iron Sheik's camel clutch. And rest in peace, Sheiky baby, Iron Sheik forever. Playing off of this, rematch between Hart and Backlund was signed for Survivor Series 1994. The match was advertised as a submission-only match, but with the stipulation that the only way for the wrestler to win was to have the other person's corner throw in the towel. Since this required a wrestler to have a corner man, each of the participants chose one. The challenger chose Owen Hart, while the champion, Bret Hart, chose Davey Boy Smith. Bret got the early advantage and wore down Backlund using side headlocks. Backlund, of course, broke free and attempted a crossface chicken wing on Bret. Bret escaped, but Backlund maintained the advantage by attacking Bret's arm and attempting another crossface chicken wing. Bret used a finger forward leg lock on Backlund, but Backlund got out of the hold and would reverse it. Bret then applied the sharpshooter, his signature move, on Backlund. Owen entered the ring and clotheslined Bret from behind, causing him to break the hold and exited the ring. Smith then chased Owen around the ring, but fell and was knocked unconscious when he hit his head on the ring steps. While Bret was distracted, Backlund applied the crossface chicken wing. Owen looked on in disbelief at what was happening to Bret and went to the ringside area where their parents, Stu and Helen Hart, were sitting conveniently. Owen begged them to throw in Bret's towel to save him, as Backlund had the hold on what would eventually be 9.5 minutes. Stu refused to do so, not trusting Owen's motives, but Helen overruled him and threw the towel into the ring. Owen then ran into the ring and showed the referee Bret's towel, and the match and championship were awarded to Backlund as Owen took off backstage, holding the towel over his head triumphantly. Would later on say that this is the best Thanksgiving ever, due to him having finally cost Bret the WWF Heavyweight Championship after trying and failing to do so by himself. So for me, this match it's always great seeing Bret, and especially in this era. And it reminds me of when I first saw Bret on WCW after he had left WWF. It reminds me of still being 5-6 years old and seeing Bret Hart come outside, or Bret Hart come to the ring, and for him to do his thing, and I think that was, there's still that little bit of like that 6-7-year-old me that's like, oh shit, this is Bret Hart, just his presentation, the way he came to the ring, the way he conducted himself, and was just top notch, and even as a youth, I could recognize that, the excellence, or the excellence of execution, if you will, of Bret Hart. But in this match, I just, I enjoyed it for what it was. I didn't enjoy the ending. It kind of went on really long, and Stu and Helen Hart look like they've never even attempted the word acting. I mean, they couldn't even, as someone would say, they couldn't act their way out of a brown paper bag. It just didn't look convinced, and they didn't look like that they were truly concerned for Bret's safety. So it was just kind of the match itself was great up until the ending, and then it would have to appear that Backlund, his arms got tired or something from that crossface chicken wing, applying it on Bret, and I just didn't really believe it. So had that maybe gone a minute or two, okay, but 9 minutes, I don't know. But it's great seeing Bob Backlund win the title. Kind of sucks that he would lose it to Diesel shortly after. But there was that one point before I kick it over to you, Cody. There was one point where Backlund really did look like Big Tex. Of course, even especially a cartoon version of Big Tex. And Big Tex, of course, is the giant cowboy at the Texas State Fair. So just kind of, I don't know, not sure what what was going on there. But it was some great stuff. Just the match was the ending was a little weird.
I don't have too much new to add to what you said. You made some really good points. I know I say that a lot, but you did. So, a couple things though that I wanted to point out. First of all, let's just get this out of the way. 9.5 minutes. That's insane. I stopped counting at about 7 minutes, and I just kind of gave up. So let's just be real here. That finish went on twice as long as it needed to. The match was good enough that I was invested for the first 3 to 4 minutes, and then after that, I started losing interest. And 9.5 minutes. You're pushing it. Now, going back to a positive real quick, I do want to say that it blows my mind, with the benefit of hindsight, that Bob Backlund refused or had no interest in being a heel for such a long period of his career, because the man is a natural when it comes to being a heel. He has the promo down. He knows exactly what to say. He has the mannerisms down. He knows what to do in the ring. Just the opening, whenever he and Brett, they first go at it, Backlund slinks away. He slips away from Brett every chance he gets. It's just great stuff. The little things. And so I really enjoyed watching Backlund as a heel here. I've enjoyed other matches and other promos I've watched of him as a heel. Something I've always liked. But thinking about it though, it blows my mind that he, from what I understand, resisted that for so long, because he liked being the babyface. He wanted to be the babyface. He wanted to be the good guy, for those of you who don't know the term babyface. So I didn't make a note on that. Some other things though, like I said before, a second ago, I thought the match was great. They had me invested in it. It was a slower pace than what we had seen in the opening match. But it was serious. It was great technical work. They did kind of push, going a little bit too slow at times, but I thought it worked for these guys, especially for Backlund. So I was invested. I was interested. I was watching. At one point, though, someone on commentary, I believe it might have been Vince, mentioned that Backlund was 45 years old. I think that's the age he gave. But it was around that time. It was around that age. That caught my attention, though, thinking about when he made this big return and he won the title. There was some pushback from some of the more hardcore fans of the time that he was too old for this role, that he was too old to make this comeback. And I realized, hearing his age, that Edge, Adam Copeland, is 49. So Edge has just made his debut into AEW. And I'm not saying this to criticize him in any way. I've always been a fan of Edge. But it's interesting to me that in 1994, there were critics saying that Bob Backlund was too old to make this comeback. And then here we have Edge at 49 years old, older than Bob Backlund was, making his debut in a whole new company. I'm not taking a side on that, but it was something that I noticed. There's an interesting dynamic there. But going back to the match, I really enjoyed it. There was some good stuff. I liked the back and forth with Brett trying to get submissions, Bob Backlund trying to get submissions. They kept slipping out of them. When they would get them, it wasn't the finishes. So we didn't get to see the sharpshooter or the chicken wing until the end. Little did we know the end was going to last for 10 minutes. But I really liked that. I liked that they held off until they were ready for the finish. Some really good stuff, built some anticipation. I enjoyed that. But that being said, I've already said it before. Good match. Decent pacing, a little slow at times, but pretty decent overall. Just up until the end, then it gets a little rough. The Hearts, not the most believable, despite having the experience that they had. I'm sure it had something to do with their age at this point, but it just kind of takes you out of it. So the finish was a little rough, but I did enjoy the ride up to the finish. So that's about all I have to say on that one.
Yeah, it was Vince McMahon that said that noted that Bob Backlund was 45. And then he also notes that it's the same age that George Foreman came back when he beat Michael Moore for the boxing heavyweight championship. So Bob Backlund wins the WWF heavyweight championship at 45. Of course, George Foreman had won it at 45 in the world of boxing. So, yeah, I mean, I thought you made some great points. I mean, just nothing really too much after that. But Brett's feud with Backlund would continue into the following year. Excuse me. He was voted the greatest wrestler of 1994 by Pro Wrestling Illustrated readers, winning the vote for the second straight year. Hart returned at Royal Rumble in January 1995, where he faced Diesel to try to regain his title. Backlund interfered in the match, restarting the rivalry, and leading to an I Quit match at WrestleMania 11. Hart won the match by using the crossface chicken wing to make Backlund concede defeat. But yeah, so I think I don't know if it's where it's at in the pay-per-view, but I to kind of backpack on what you were saying, Cody, I love the I feel like God promo from Backlund here, where he's saying that, talking about morality and shame on you for not having morals, and and he's trying to bring morality to the WWF, and then he just ends it with and then his voice gets really low. He's very animated at first, and then it gets really low, so you can really pay attention to what he's saying. And then he just ends it by screaming, "I feel like God," holds the title above his head, and then walks out the back. So yeah, I mean, just some really cool stuff here, but yeah, what was super cool though was this fourth match, which was the $1 Million Dream Team with Bam Bam Bigelow, Jimmy Del Rey, the Gigolo, King Kong Bundy, Tatanka, and Dr. Tom Pritchard, which he wasn't Tom Pritchard at this point, but you get the idea. With So it's noted Jim Cornette, but I don't remember seeing him in the match, or at least this match. And then, of course, Ted DiBiase. They defeated Guts and Glory, which consisted of Adam Bomb, Bart Gunn, Billy Gunn, the Smoking Guns, Lex Luger, and Mabel with Oscar. They go 23 minutes and 21 seconds. The central feud in this match between Guts and Glory and the $1 Million Team was between Lex Luger and Ted DiBiase's $1 Million Corporation. During 1994, DiBiase had purchased the contracts of several wrestlers to form a heel stable. Among the wrestlers to join were Bam Bam Bigelow and King Kong Bundy. Prior to SummerSlam 1994, DiBiase claimed to have added Luger to the group. Luger, of course, denied these allegations, despite Tatanka's claiming that he had evidence that Luger had quote-unquote sold out to DiBiase. Luger and Tatanka would face each other at SummerSlam 1994. And again, check out that episode where we reviewed that match and that card. But of course, where it was revealed that the storyline was a swerve, or a fake, if you will, as Tatanka had turned on Luger to join the $1 Million Corporation. Bam Bam Bigelow and Adam Bomb were also feuding, or had also been feuding since September 10th, 1994, on an episode of Wrestling Superstars. Bigelow attacked his opponent, a jobber, or a guy that's scheduled to get beat up before the match. DiBiase then claimed that the company was not providing suitable competition, and he challenged any wrestler to face Bigelow. Adam Bomb, of course, responded. The two brawled briefly, leading to Survivor Series. Adam Bomb and Bigelow had faced each other at several house shows, The Heavenly Bodies were not members of DiBiase stable, but they had competed on behalf of the group. At the time, they were involved in a feud with the Smoking Guns as a result of the September 3rd episode of Superstars of Wrestling. The Heavenly Bodies attacked the Guns prior to the match and stole the Guns' cowboy hat. They fought on the hats to mock the Guns and threw them on the ground and stomped on them. To get revenge, the Smoking Guns threw the Heavenly Bodies ring robes, or tore up the ring robes, and especially the wings, with the focus on the wings on the back of the jackets there. So in this match, Guts and Glory took an early lead when Mabel pinned Pritchard after performing a crossbody from the second rope. A beautiful crossbody. Wow. That I might add. Mabel fought Bundy and Bigelow, but he was counted out after clotheslining Bigelow out of the ring, where it appears that he bonked his head. Bigelow then performed a moonsault on Adam Bomb and got the pinfall. A beautiful moonsault by Bam Bam Bigelow, and of course we have spoke very highly of Bam Bam Bigelow on this podcast, but nonetheless a beautiful moonsault from him. Luger and Del Rey fought back and forth until Luger performed a running forearm smash on Del Rey to get the pinfall. The Smoking Guns were eliminated next. Luger fought back by pinning Tatanka with a small package. 7 seconds later, Bundy would, of course, pin Luger after Luger was, already on the ground with the splash to get the victory. Bundy, Bigelow, and Tatanka continued to attack Luger after the match until Luger's team returned to the ring to save him. But yeah, so some really cool stuff from this match. I think out of all the team matches, this would probably is a close second. I mean, just cool stuff here. Not as much as a wash as the opening team match with the Bad Guys and Teamsters, but some cool stuff nonetheless. Always great seeing Bam Bam Bigelow out there, and of course King Kong Bundy and Tatanka, and who could forget the prestigious Heavenly Bodies. But yeah, and then on the other side with the Smoking Guns and Luger and Adam Bomb, it was cool stuff from them as well. But yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed this match for what it was.
Similar to the first tag match we talked about, I did like that they were able to bring old rivalries into this with current ones. They did a good job there. Cornette was there. I made a note that he walked out with him. I don't think he got involved as often as he normally does, but he was there. I'm a big fan of what Tatanka was doing at this particular time. Now, with hindsight, we know he didn't go on to the greatest things, but he was in the middle of this really interesting heel push here, and I noted that out of the entire $1 Million team, he really seemed to be the top guy. He was getting the most in. He was looking the best. And, for this particular era, I like seeing that. I thought he was doing a good job. I'm happy to see the Heavenly Bodies whenever I can, especially on the WWF. So that was good. As far as the Guts and Glory team, I mean, there was Luger. That's about all I can say about that team. Not the most impressive team to me personally. But overall, I did enjoy the match. I thought there was some good back and forth. There was some good content here. Mabel didn't look too bad. The fans were really into seeing Mabel up against Bundy. So I appreciated that. That was pretty good. But overall, it was a solid match. I wasn't quite as invested as I was in the first tag match, but there was nothing to really complain about either. So all in all, pretty good.
Yes, I would agree. Pretty good. Great stuff. Really pleasure to watch the Heavenly Bodies come out and do their stuff. So those guys are always great, especially it seems like Jim Cornette really has good taste in tag teams, but Luger's feud with the $1 Million Corporation did not continue, as the corporation targeted the Undertaker next. The Undertaker spent most of the following year feuding with the corporation, as he faced IRS at the 1995 Royal Rumble, King Kong Bundy at WrestleMania 11, Kama, at SummerSlam 1995. Luger was placed in a tag team with Davey Boy Smith, known as the Lion Powers, but the team never won the tag team belts, the tag team titles. I'm sorry. The team was dissolved in the summer of 1995 after Smith turned heel, and Luger left the company following SummerSlam to return to the WCW or World Championship Wrestling. Yep, and then of course, shortly after that, we get the Bob Backlund Feels Like God promo. So if you get a chance to check out anything, check out that, because it's just quite hilarious. So really love that there. But so wrapping up the festivities, we get the fifth and final match with the Undertaker accompanied by Paul Bearer, and he defeated Yokozuna with Jim Cornette and Mr. Fuji, and they go 15 minutes and 24 seconds. This, of course, is a rematch from Royal Rumble 1994, where the Undertaker was sent to heaven. So I guess he, like the great Jesus Christ, he came back to fruition. So shout outs to him for that. Avenging Angel Taker comes back, and he mixes up with Yokozuna. The feud between the Undertaker and Yokozuna, of course, started at Survivor Series 1993 during an elimination match. Yokozuna was unable to injure the Undertaker, despite slamming the Undertaker's head into the ring steps and performing a banzai drop on him. A match was booked for Royal Rumble 1994, in which we had spoke about. The Undertaker would challenge the WWF Heavyweight Champion Yokozuna at the time for the title in a casket match. During the match, which featured a no disqualification clause, Mr. Fuji, Yokozuna's manager, hired 9 other wrestlers to interfere on Yokozuna's behalf. Yokozuna won the match after opening the Undertaker's urn, which, according to storyline, contained the secret to the Undertaker's powers. After the match, Undertaker appeared on a video screen and vowed to return to the World Wrestling Federation one day. He was not seen for several months, although in reality, he was taking time off wrestling to heal his injuries. The Undertaker would return at SummerSlam 1994, defeating an Undertaker lookalike. And of course, check out that episode for our our take on that match, which spoiler alert wasn't good. A rematch against Yokozuna was scheduled for Survivor Series. This would also be a casket match, and of course, who could forget Chuck Norris was brought in as the special enforcer outside the ring to prevent any funny business from the heels. So in this casket match rematch with Chuck Norris hanging out, the Undertaker would gain an early advantage, but Yokozuna reversed the momentum with a Samoan drop. He tried to put the Undertaker in the casket, but the Undertaker fought back. Yokozuna next performed a leg drop and placed the Undertaker in the casket. Before Yokozuna could close the lid, however, the Undertaker attacked him and grabbed him by the throat. The two wrestlers fought while standing in the cage. During the scuffle inside the casket, Mr. Fuji tried to interfere by grabbing the Undertaker's hair, but the Undertaker would turn around and stalk Fuji and grabbed him with both hands on his throat. Jim Cornette attempted to interfere as well, but was struck down from a uppercut by the Undertaker. The Undertaker performed a clothesline from the top rope on Yokozuna and put him in the casket. King Kong Bundy and Bam Bam Bigelow came down to the ring, but Chuck Norris blocked their path. While Chuck Norris was distracted, however, IRS entered the ring from the other side and attacked the Undertaker. He placed the Undertaker in the casket, but the Undertaker recovered before Yokozuna could close the lid. Jeff Jarrett would interfere on Yokozuna's behalf, and Norris stopped him with a kick, if you call it that. Karate Master Chuck Norris attempts to kick Jeff Jarrett and can't really get his leg up. So Jeff Jarrett has to kind of like duck into it and then like scurries away. The Undertaker would perform a DDT and a big boot on Yokozuna, who fell through the ropes into the casket. Undertaker then snatched the Japanese flag from Fuji's hand, snapped it in half, threw it in the casket, and slammed the lid to gain the victory. So really just respecting the whole country of Japan in the process. But there you go. I mean, that's kind of the short and thick of it. Just I mean, yeah, it was something that happened. I think that it's always great seeing Undertaker and Yokozuna work against each other. You know, both of those guys are bigger guys. You know, Yokozuna, of course, is a more, short, heavy set type of wrestler, and Undertaker is, nearly 7 foot tall. But it's always great seeing these two big guys work against each other. It's cool seeing somebody with the body mass and the strength to push Yokozuna around, and likewise for the Undertaker. So, I mean, just two big guys putting on a great match. I don't necessarily know why we had to go the casket match route, but I know that it's noted that Yokozuna does have a fear of caskets, so maybe Undertaker thought, two times the charm. I don't know, but I feel like if they would have just had a standard match, it would have fared a little bit better. But maybe you don't get to bring in Chuck Norris. I don't know. But did we need Chuck Norris? I'm gonna say no. I mean, it was cool, but I don't know. It's kind of like if nowadays, if you brought in, I don't know, John Jones or somebody, or whoever the top karate, like Jason Statham, or I don't know. Maybe I'm dating myself with that reference, but you'd bring in like a karate action guy in, and it's just kind of, I don't know, kind of phony.
Well, what's the WWF if not phony, Jesse?
That's very true. I mean, this is pre-Attitude Era, so still in the kind of cartoony cartoon phase of everything.
That being said, though, I think this is probably my favorite Undertaker match since we started doing these reviews, out of the matches we've talked about anyways. I know there's not a lot, but I was a pretty strong critic of the last casket match as well as the Undertaker versus Undertaker match. I'm a fan of pro wrestling, so I love the entertainment. I do love the gimmicks, but I like them in moderation. I know there are different kinds of fans. People like different things. Personally, I prefer them in moderation. So this one I appreciated more because it did have less of all of that. Now, we did get some. Don't get me wrong. There were some things I wasn't a big fan of, but that being said, no one levitated away. There were no evil twins, so I was able to get behind it a little bit more. The match itself, it was pretty decent. I feel like this was a point in Yokozuna's career where he was slowing down, though. This was not as good as some of the matches that I have been watching of his recently, especially from the year prior. So that was a little sad for me to see that this was the point in his career where he wasn't quite able to hang as well as he had. But again, it wasn't a bad match overall. Wasn't a great match, but wasn't a bad match. Along with you, I'm not quite sure why Chuck Norris was there, but I do know this was prime Chuck Norris time. He was the big deal at the moment, so I can overlook that. Although I think we only got like one roundhouse kick out of him, so if you're gonna have Chuck Norris, I mean, maybe you give us some Chuck Norris. Give me a little bit more than the one roundhouse kick. That being said, though, the match was what it was, and I mean that for good and for bad, so no real complaints. The run-in with IRS, that I actually kind of like that one. Out of all the run-ins we've been getting, there's been so many over these last few reviews. I think I even commented on it previously, a little bit of a complaint. But in this one, it made sense. Chuck Norris was distracted by the other guys. IRS comes in, nobody sees him. He takes advantage of the moment, slips out. It's like, okay, I can get behind that. A good comeback by Undertaker. I will say, as disrespectful as it was whenever he broke the flag, that was a really cool image, a really cool shot moment. The throwing Yoko in, breaking the flag, throwing it in the casket, slamming the door shut. That was a pretty cool sequence of events. I gotta admit it. I'm not gonna lie. But at the end of the day, I think the match was an improvement to some of the previous Undertaker stuff because they did tone down the gimmicks. But in true 1994 Undertaker fashion, there were still gimmicks. So for the fans of that, you still get that. Decent action, a run-in that made sense, that worked, and a really cool visual at the end. So all in all, I went in with low expectations, but that helped me come out, pleasantly surprised. Or I shouldn't say surprised, but feeling okay about it.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. This is probably the best Undertaker match that we've seen so far. So no one went to heaven, nothing like that. Chuck Norris, I think so I was listening to an episode of the Jim Cornette Experience, and somebody had wrote in to Cornette about this match and about the casket matches, and of course about the Chuck Norris involvement. I think he did note that WWF was on USA at the time, and Chuck Norris showed up as his Walker Texas Ranger character. So it was the character Walker Texas Ranger, not really Chuck Norris, but they kept calling him Chuck Norris, so can't keep kayfabe all the time. So, but yeah, I mean, and I guess he wasn't wearing his the right kind of jeans or something, or there's some sort of malfunction there. But kudos to the always great Jeff Jarrett for being a good sport. Really had to limbo down to take the kick, and then felt scurried away. So, but yeah, yeah, I mean, cool stuff, for both guys though. But unfortunately, Yokozuna would not regain his main event status after the Survivor Series. After taking some time off, he made a surprise return at WrestleMania 11 as Owen Hart's partner in a tag team match against the Smoking Guns. Yokozuna and Hart won the WWF Tag Team Championships, and Owen's feud with Bret was dropped. The brothers eventually reunited in 1997 to form the Hart Foundation, a stable that also included Davey Boy Smith and Jim Neidhart. And throughout most of 1995, Undertaker feuded with various members of Ted DiBiase's $1 Billion Corporation. And of course, unfortunately, may he rest in peace, Yokozuna has since passed away, but, was definitely was an integral part of this, of this era. So this might be the last that we're seeing of Yokozuna for a while, unless we review something before 1994. But I mean, I always enjoyed Yokozuna. He used the tools that he had at the time, and put on some good matches and some good segments with them. So but I mean, I think that's going to do it for us, at least. Next on the next week's episode, we will be reviewing Starrcade 83. Is that right, Cody?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, Starrcade 83. What was that?
A flair for the gold.
A flair for the gold. There you go. So we will be reviewing Starrcade 1983, a flair for the gold. And of course, we will end this month with with Halloween Havoc, and that is the Vader Cactus Jack match in that, and then that whole card. So that would be Halloween Havoc 1993 with Vader and Cactus Jack. So we will end the month with that card. If you want to get in touch with us, you can do so on the social medias on Facebook and Instagram. That's 3ref at both of those. you can check out what we're doing. We like to post memes and updates, and that's when we'll post the subject of what we're talking about for the week. So you'll be able to get in those questions. If you have any concerns of whatsoever, you can submit those to that's3ref@gmail.com. And yeah, just come check us out. Join the party before we are bought by the parent company that bought WWE. So in 5 years' time, it might be WWE, UFC, and that's 3Ref Podcast. So be on the lookout for that.
Make sure to join us next week for my first pick for our viewing. As Jesse said, it's going to be Starrcade 83, a Flair for the Gold. I'm very excited for this. I'm a big fan of early 80s to mid 80s wrestling, so I'm excited to dip into that with you guys and ready to talk about it.
Yeah, very cool. So maybe we'll have some very outdated 80s references for you guys, in addition to a stellar card. And of course, after that, we will be checking out Halloween Havoc 1993. And then after that, to be determined. So that could be another reason to submit or message the podcast and let us know your picks, because we're always up for those. But all right, well, goodbye, everybody. Have fun. See ya.